torched, scorched, flambéed, sautéed, grilled, destroyed, murdered. I don't care what you say. I don't care how you call it. He got totally, man, he did not see that one coming for sure. What's up? This is Marquez Saves the Republic. You know, yesterday I said, we're not going to take this press briefing live. We'll just dip in and out. And then, of course, we missed one of the biggest takedowns in press briefing history by Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, when I don't know who this guy was, some Irishman. He's some Irishman who came in here and he had some kind of agenda, which they all do. I mean, all the liberal reporters have an agenda, and this guy was no different. But he came in and he started to badmouth ICE, and he asked a pointed question, and Caroline Leavitt took him down just like Donald Trump trained her to, which was very, 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 very exciting. We got a lot going on, man. We got a lot of stuff we got to talk about today. We have it's Friday, first of all, which is very exciting. And it's a long weekend, which I always forget about. Monday's a holiday. So I got to go to the bank today because, they're closed on Mondays. Or closed on this particular Monday, because it's a holiday. We'll be live though. We got a 3-day weekend, but we're still working. So if you're looking for something to do, if you're off work, then maybe you can join us for the entire show, whatever. But we'll have our regularly scheduled programming all day on Monday. Also, since it's Friday, that means it's Cha-Ching Chat Friday. And Cha-Ching Chat Friday is very cool because what it means is that you can have your message read aloud by me during the broadcast, and all you have to do is send me a minimum Rumble rant or super chat in a minimum amount of $5. And if you do that, you'll set off the cha-chinger, and then we will read your comment, whatever it happens to be, live on the show, which is very exciting. It could be a message of gratitude to somebody. It could be a pointed political message. It could be a happy birthday or anniversary message. It could be your website or your Instagram, whatever you want to do. And we'll, like I said, we'll if you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. Is basically how that works. It's like basically a payoff, but that's okay because it's also something that helps support the show. And man, we're getting a lot more support these days because we got not a lot more support, but we're just getting support because we have all kinds of great stuff. Hold on, wait a minute. My Cha-Ching Chat comment thread is not working. That's not good. That's not good at all. Hang on, let me go check out something here real quick. I had to, what I had to do, which I hate doing, is I had to what do you call it? I had to clear my cookies. You ever have to clear your cookies? Like your cookies are they're like, quick, clear your cookies. And I'm like, all right. So I had to clear my cookies. And when I cleared my cookies, everything got I had to log back into everything. I do this, that, and the other. And now I just realized it looks like my comments aren't populating, which is not a good sign for Cha-Ching Chat Friday. It's always something. It's always going to be something. But anyway, we've got, we'll get your Cha-Ching. I may just have to read them all. Instead of actually sharing them. That's weird. I don't know why that's happening actually. Now I'm a little annoyed by it all, but and that's the thing. It's always, there's always this one website that doesn't work. And they always say, have you tried clearing your cache? And I go, all right, I'll clear my cache. And then I clear my cache and you know what happens? Everything else just gets totally destroyed. And I'm just like, oh, why did that happen? Why did I clear my cache? All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just ignore it and move on with the show. So yesterday, before we get to Caroline Leavitt, yesterday, which again was an amazing press briefing, and I love to hear these things, and I love to see that the media, because it's so interesting to me, because people they'll come out against President Donald Trump for being harsh with the media. They'll come out against Caroline Leavitt for yelling and screaming at the media, and they'll say the media is just trying to do their job. They're not, because this guy literally pushed his opinion. This guy literally pushed his opinion on all the viewers and everybody there in the press briefing room and all the press corps. He wasn't just being a reporter. He wasn't just trying to dig up and find the facts and report the facts to the people. No, he was using his medium, his platform, as a way to push his left-wing opinion. So, you know what? If that's the case, if that's what happens, that's what happens. But Caroline Leavitt wasn't going to let it happen. Today, though, however, before we get to that, President Donald Trump was at this, this meeting It was like a round table meeting, they call it, or whatever it is, and it's all about farm subsidies or farmers are good or getting more money from rural something or other. I wasn't really paying attention, I'm going to be honest with you, but he did say some things about Greenland because he always talks about everything. These meetings that he has, I think, are just a way for him to do, like, he takes care of business for about 15, 20 minutes, and then he just talks about whatever he wants. And he was asked about Greenland, and here's something else he did. People are like, are you going to invade Greenland? Donald Trump says, we need Greenland. Are you going to invade it? I don't know. Are you going to buy it? Maybe. Well, Donald Trump, apparently, he let slip today, or he told, I guess he didn't let it slip. He knew everyone was listening, that he actually called up all of the European countries and demanded that they let him have Greenland. If not, they were going to get tariffed.
And I just went one after another. I called Germany. No, we will not do that. I said, no, we're going to put a 25% tariff, which is, by the way, about 7 times more than they would have to pay by raising their drug, like 7 times. This wasn't like a little bit more, 7 times more. And I may do that for Greenland too. I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security. So I may do that. I'll give you a little, I'll take you out of the, in fact, that'll end up being the story. But actually, this is a much bigger story because we're reducing healthcare by numbers that you haven't seen. So I spoke to the top 10 countries.
Yeah, so he was talking to he got off on a little bit of a tangent there. Basically, what he said was, hey guys, we got to talk about healthcare. We got to talk about all these countries and the healthcare and this and that and healthcare and these countries and healthcare. And we got to talk about this and then we got to talk about the healthcare. Oh, by the way, I'm going to tariff everybody if they don't give me Greenland. And you know that Donald Trump will, because as Donald Trump said, he is king of the tariffs.
Understood how to deal with them, and I'm the tariff king, and the tariff king has done a great job. And I hope we win the Supreme Court case, because if we don't, be a shame for our country. Be a shame. We have.
Yeah, it'd be a shame for our country. Listen, here's the deal. We have, not only is it a shame for our country, but what he's saying is, and he's talked about this all the time, with the tariffs that we've already accumulated, with the tariffs that we've already brought in, with the money and the revenue, with the investment that we've gotten in this country, because a lot of what you have is investment in the country to reduce the tariff. So yes, we're making money from tariffs, but we're also making money because in an effort to reduce tariff, you have investment coming into the country. It's basically, you can pay a tariff, or you can just build your factory here, build your stuff here, manufacture your crap here, and you don't have to pay a tariff because it's made in America. And that's where the investment has come in. So now Donald Trump's saying, well, if the tariff power is gone, then they're going to pull all these investments. Because why would they? If they're not going to get tariffed, there's no reason for them to build in the United States. And that would be truly devastating. And that's why the Supreme Court cannot rule against President Donald Trump's tariffs. However, Kevin Hassett believes that the Supreme Court will not rule against Donald Trump's tariffs.
Right. Well, we're highly confident that they're going to side with us, that the legal analysis is on our side. And, we've talked about that on your show before, so I won't have to go into the details of that. But we also have a backup plan that's really solid. We can put a 10% tariff on right away to make up most of the room, and then use things like the 301 authorities, the 232 authorities to backfill the things that we've already achieved with these great deals with the countries. I expect that the Supreme Court is going to be really, really supportive of the president's plan, because look at all of the things that we've created this year. We've got a huge reduction in the deficit. We've got really, really high economic growth, and inflation is way down. If you look at the Consumer Price Index, the last data that we saw showed the core over 3 months at an annual rate at only 1.6%. And so the idea that the tariffs would harm the economy and create inflation has been proven wrong by the data. And I think that the Supreme Court wouldn't want to upend all of that great success either.
A lot of people I've heard have said that we've been listening to the oral arguments, and at first they thought maybe they thought the oral arguments weren't going to go President Donald Trump's way, but now they're kind of flipping to their side and going, we heard the oral arguments, and maybe we think now that the Supreme Court's actually going to vote in favor of Donald Trump having the tariff power, which a lot of people just say he does. I mean, constitutionally he does, but whenever somebody sues, whenever there's a court case, you got to run it all the way through the system, and it ends up at the Supreme Court, and then they've got to make their, they got to put their stamp of approval on it. And you never know what some of those judges, you never know which side of the bed they're going to wake up on, the right side or the left side, or as we like to call it, the wrong side. Kevin Hassett was also talking about tax season because President Donald Trump is doing everything he can to reduce taxes.
And so our expectation is that you're going to have the biggest refund season ever, which is going to be a significant positive stimulus for the economy. But I will add a non-inflationary stimulus because we've got all the supply going up too. We've got $18 trillion in new factory construction and so on. And so I think that it's really, the Trump golden age is going to be tested, the theory of it this year. And I think it's looking pretty good.
And Donald Trump is a big fan of Kevin Hassett. In fact, President Donald Trump, Kevin Hassett's really good. He's great at what he does. He's the National Financial Director, Board of Affairs person, head director of the National Financial, whatever it is. And he's great at it. He's great on TV, and he's up for Fed chair. He's one of the 4 names that Donald Trump has thrown into the hat for the Fed chair when Jerome Powell finally goes away later on this year. But he may be too good at his current job, and Donald Trump may not want to let him go to the Fed.
I see Kevin's in the audience, and I just want to thank you. You were fantastic on television today. I actually want to keep you where you are, if you want to know the truth. Kevin Hassett is so good. I'm saying, wait a minute. If I move them, these Fed guys, certainly the one we have now, they don't talk much. I would lose you. It's a serious concern to me. So I just want to say thank you very much. You've done incredible. We don't want to lose him, Susie. But we'll see how it all works out, okay? Thank you, Kevin. Great job.
So if Kevin Hassett thought I'm going to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve, he may not. He may have actually talked himself out of a job by being so good on television. And Donald Trump's right about a couple things. You want to keep good people where they are. Also, you want to make sure you have a good spokesperson, and that's what Kevin Hassett is. He's a great spokesperson for Donald Trump's economic and financial plans for the future, but he'd also be a great Fed chair. And when you're a great Fed chair, the other thing is with being Fed chair, you have longevity. If Kevin Hassett were the Fed chair, he would be the Fed chair throughout Donald Trump's term, throughout probably J.D. Vance's 2 terms, if J.D. Vance becomes president or Marco or whoever it is. And then after that, I mean, Fed chairs, they could stick, if they do a good job, if they're doing a decent job, it's very difficult to replace them. So it almost becomes, I mean, you want to talk about longevity, you want to talk about career longevity and job security, become the Fed chair. I mean, look at Jerome Powell. Donald Trump hates the guy. The DOJ is investigating him, but he's not losing his job. He's going to be in that job until next to Supreme Court Justice. It's probably one of the best jobs to have in Washington, D.C. Definitely one of the best jobs to have in Washington, D.C. Now, as big a fan as he is of Kevin Hassett, he hates Democrats, especially Gavin Newsom.
Minnesota and California and other places. I actually think that if we do an unbelievable job, you could almost balance your budget, Kevin. If you take a look at the kind of numbers you're talking about, nobody ever saw anything like it. They're all corrupt politicians, from the governor of Minnesota to the governor of California to everybody. They're just corrupt politicians. And you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in fraud, waste fraud and abuse. But in fraud, you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars under the.
Yeah, and that's all coming from Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota. That's all coming from Gavin Newsom. And the fraud is just running rampant. In fact, fraud is in every aspect. And the most amazing thing about President Donald Trump's cabinet, again, of course, is that they all work in tandem. So you have the Department of Justice who's investigating the fraud with the FBI, the DOJ. You've got attorneys who have been sent there in mass. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of DOJ attorneys in Minnesota right now who are digging into the fraud, and they're going through all this stuff. But then you've got, SNAP fraud. And with SNAP fraud, you get the Department of Agriculture involved. And Brooke Rollins is like, yeah, we've also got people there.
All the red states sent us their data to help figure out what that looked like. We found 200,000 dead people, or people using dead people's Social Security numbers. We found 500,000 people getting more than 2 times what they should have, getting those benefits twice. We found some guy getting benefits in 5 states. And Maria, this is just the red states. I mean, the red states normally have a smaller program, tighter accountability and control. The blue states sued us, and so we're in another active litigation on that. They don't want California, New York, they don't want to turn their data over so that we can help them root out the fraud. And then the Minnesota piece, of course, which we've all been covering, is remarkable. Yeah. So we are in court. We're going to work really hard to make sure we're protecting the American taxpayer and the people who actually need these programs.
Yeah, because don't forget, we always talk about the taxpayers. We're like, oh, we're the taxpayers and our money's being wasted. Oh, we're the taxpayers and they're stealing our cash. Oh, we're the taxpayers and they're taking our money and they're buying expensive glasses and Mercedes Benzes and all that other kind of stuff. But then there's also the people that actually need the services that the taxpayer money is supposed to go to, and those people are also suffering because they're not getting the level of service that they should be getting because of the fraud, the waste, fraud, and abuse. So it is really kind of detrimental all the way around. And then, of course, there's ICE. We send the DOJ, we send the FBI, we send Nick Shirley. That's not true. Nick Shirley just went on his own volition. We send all attorneys general. We send SNAP. We send Brooke Rollins. We send all these people, and then we send ICE. And ICE is the most hated of all. Think about this. I want you to think about this. The FBI showed up in Minneapolis, Minnesota to investigate these Somali daycares. The FBI showed up to investigate these transportation hubs and the SNAP stuff. There are a lot of there's attorneys from the DOJ that are investigating the Somali community right now for fraud. Interestingly enough, they didn't spark riots. Nobody started beating up the FBI agents. Nobody started driving into FBI agents with cars. But ICE, for whatever reason, it's really interesting. ICE, for whatever reason, becomes the bad guy, like the worst of the worst. When you have immigration and you have the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, coming in to investigate Somali fraud. Nobody freaks out. I mean, they're not happy about it, but they're not freaking out. You've got SNAP fraud being investigated. Nobody freaks out. But ICE shows up to deport illegal criminals. All of a sudden, massive chaos. It's really, really interesting how that happens, isn't it? It's really, really interesting the level of crime that is acceptable, or the level of law enforcement that is acceptable. If you want to deport illegal aliens, you are going to meet the wrath of Minnesotans. But if you just want to investigate fraud, we'll let you take the transfer cases out of the Somali daycares and see what you can find. I don't understand it myself, but the fake news media, being mostly liberal, they hate the fact that Donald Trump has sent ICE officers anywhere, really, but especially Minneapolis, Minnesota. And one of these guys, I don't even really know where he's from, some Irish guy, asked a very pointed question of Caroline Leavitt yesterday at the press briefing, and she did not let him get away with it.
Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents generally, and earlier on, Secretary Noem spoke to the media, and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 U.S. citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed her unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist. And it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised in your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals and make our communities safer. And shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked view and have a biased view and pretend like you're a real honest journalist.
Yeah, shame on you, you faker, you fake news journalist. Not even. You think that you have a real view. You don't have a real view. But again, it doesn't matter if he has a real view or not. It's the press briefing room, and he's the press supposedly, and his job is to not share his opinion. It's to investigate and to get the facts and to write them down and to share them with the people. Share the facts with the people. That's what you're supposed to do. But that's not what any of these people. That's not what CNN does. Wolf Blitzer had, what's her name? Trisha. I forget her last name. She's the assistant, or she's the communications director for Homeland Security or something like that. Anyway, they had her on and they were talking about ICE, of course, because that's all they ever want to talk about. And Wolf Blitzer was trying to, again, install his opinion into the conversation.
Yes,
I talked about the polls. It's a fair question to say, are you losing American support? But Wolf, I want to let you
please.
No one supports attacking or killing a law
Exactly. No one
enforcement
does.
officer. Nobody supports that.
But if I may say, you all have said, really laying the feet at that ICE enforcement officer. We said
I
that
said
this
this
was
early in the
domestic.
investigation.
We said that this was domestic terrorism for a reason. This individual used a deadly weapon against our ICE law enforcement officer. That is and will be charged. In any of the cases, we saw 15 of these cases over the past week alone in Minneapolis. Those will be charged as domestic terrorism.
When she called this 37-year-old mother of three who was driving that car a domestic terrorist, that really was outrageous.
We said it was an act of domestic terrorism. In no way is that outrageous. What we saw on the ground there, she had been stalking and harassing law enforcement throughout the morning, and then she went on to use her car as a deadly weapon.
She was driving by after dropping off her little 6-year-old boy
That's
at
just
school.
simply not true. I have the facts on the ground. I mean, if you look at it, for the
Do you have more information you can release to give the public a better understanding?
If I can give you the facts of what happened that morning. At 9:30 a.m. Central Time, this is where that incident occurred in Minneapolis. This individual, for hours before, had been stalking and harassing law enforcement, impeding operations. At the time of that incident, our law enforcement approached this individual's vehicle as she was blocking in our law enforcement. That is a federal crime. They asked her to get out of the car, to stop obstructing law enforcement. You saw from the video that her partner had been walking around harassing the law enforcement officer. Our officer was in front of her. She gunned the vehicle, and that's when things turned dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, it's the best part is that she's sitting there trying to describe the situation, or describing the situation rather, and they start showing the video, and the video actually correlates with everything that she's saying. Trisha McLaughlin, by the way, is her name. And Wolf Blitzer's out there going, this is outrageous. This mother of three just dropping her kid off at school, and then she gets shot dead by an ICE agent. That's outrageous. Well, let's look at the actual facts. Isn't it outrageous that she'd been stalking ICE agents? Isn't it outrageous that she blocked them in with her vehicle? Isn't it outrageous that her lesbian partner was out there screaming and yelling and videotaping everybody? Isn't it outrageous that when there was a police officer in front of her car, or a nice officer in front of her car, she gunned it, which we saw, and she plowed right into him, caused internal bleeding, we found out now? And then, yes, things turned deadly. But it wasn't just outrageous and impromptu and reckless, as that other reporter said. It was cause and effect. And when you look at the facts as they are, not as the media portrays them to be, you start to see, oh yeah, maybe this was an act of domestic terrorism, because that's what it was. And that's how they define it. When you attack somebody who is a federal officer in the course of their duties with a deadly weapon, then, I mean, what else? I don't know what else you want to, I don't know what's going to cut. There's another clip here with them. Them talking about the ICE agents. And this is something I thought too. If you don't like ICE agents, right? Like I think I said this earlier today during the 47 Daily podcast, because I used to just report the facts during the 47 Daily podcast, but that's tough for me. I like to insert a little editorial comment here and there. But the 47 Daily podcast today, I specifically mentioned, I said, look, here's the deal. If you don't want ICE in your neighborhood, then let them do their job and get out. They don't want to be there. They're not like, hey, Minneapolis is great. Let's hang out here all the time. Let's move. Here's what happens. ICE finds out that there's a bunch of criminal thug, gang member, drug dealing, cartel aliens in a city. So they descend on that city. They round them all up. They deport them. And then they go, all right, there's nobody else here. Our job is done. And they leave. Then they go to the next city and the next, whatever. So that's basically the job of ICE. It's like, when, I don't know, you ever have critters in your house? Here in the South, we get critters in our house. I had critters in my house. And so I called the exterminator and I said, hey, can you get these critters out of the house? And the exterminator came and went to go get the critters out of the house. And then I started screaming, F you, and I hit him with my car. I'm totally kidding. That's not all what happened. No, I said, thank you. And he got the critters out of the house. And then you know what he did? He got in his truck and he left. And I never saw him again. Same thing happens with ICE. You said ICE, if you really don't want ICE in Minneapolis, shut up, sit down, stop harassing them, get out of their way and let them do their job. Then they'll leave and you can have your city back. If you don't want ICE in New York or Chicago, great. Don't blame Donald Trump. Don't blame Tom Homan. Don't blame Kristi Noem. Don't blame anybody. Blame Joe Biden. The only reason there's critters in your house is because Joe Biden left the door open. And now you got to get the exterminators in. But the sooner you let them do their job, the sooner you let them do their job, you're gonna be back to normal, and you're gonna be living life, and you're gonna be safe and sound in your own humble abode. That's really how it's supposed to work. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. Unfortunately, that's not at all how it works because of the Democrats, not only when they were in charge of the country, but now that they're in charge of these blue cities and states. And in fact, a couple people mentioned that. It was, where was it? John Fetterman. Should we start with John Fetterman? He brought out a chart, and he was trying to, I guess, prove to Democrats, like his fellow Democrats, he's trying to tell his fellow Democrats what I just told you. Guys, you're doing it wrong.
Border, and it was skyrocketing, and it's like, that's unsustainable. When you reach almost 300,000 people, that's unsustainable. And we need to, as a Democrat, It shouldn't be unreasonable to want to secure our border and do it in that way. And now let's also talk about ICE. Now, absolutely. Again, what happened in Minneapolis was absolutely tragic. And then now, if you think, now this is from the Washington Post, this is the latest statistics. These are people that ICE now are, no, it's like, no.
By the way, watching John Fetterman try to hold up a chart like the right, it's entertaining to watch. I'm sorry, here we go.
67% have criminal charges, pending ones, or that. So that's more than 2/3. The people now there are some people that aren't involved in any kinds of illegal things, but so me, I think two things can be true. Round up all the criminals, deport them. They shouldn't have ever been here, and they definitely have to go. And now I don't want to see more and more things happening in Minneapolis now too. So two things must be true. And I strongly reject the extreme on either side, about this now. So we must be true. And, I watched you earlier in your show. You just pointed out President Obama deported, millions of people, and there wasn't having the same kind of outrage here, here is from Democrats.
I could listen. I don't know about you. I could listen to John Fetterman explain stuff to me all day. I don't know that I understand what he's saying half the time, but I do. But I kind of get the gist. The gist is he's saying Democrats are wrong, Republicans are right. Democrats are exacerbating the situation. Republicans are just trying to, promote law and order. I think that's what he's, and in fact, if I know that's what he's saying because I've heard that clip a couple times. I was able to decipher the truth and get it out of there. But Tom Emmer, who is the one of the senators from Minnesota, congressman from Minnesota and the majority whip in the House of Representatives, he also is now saying, look, Tim Walz, this guy's got to go.
Minnesota Congressman and Majority Whip Tom Emmer posted this to X on Thursday. Tim Walz should resign effective immediately. The safety of Minnesotans depends on it. The scenes of destruction and damage taking place in Minneapolis are abhorrent. This violence cannot be tolerated. We'll bring in Texas Congressman Wesley Hunt, member of the House Judiciary Committee, also a candidate for Texas Senate. Congressman, good to see you. Congressman Emmer joins a very large chorus of Republican lawmakers who are calling for the immediate resignation of Governor Tim Walz. He is not seeking re-election. Do you believe Tim Walz should step down?
He should step down, actually, effective immediately, because he clearly doesn't understand the supremacy clause in this country. And so when you have illegal immigrants and you are harboring them in your state, and an illegal immigrant is somebody that has entered this country illegally, which is breaking federal law, and then they have actually crossed state lines to be in your state in Minnesota, that's a problem if you're the governor that's not going to support the federal government to remove these people from their state and send them back to their country of origin. It really is that simple. And Tim Walz is already resigning, but he has actually tempted to call the National Guard from his state to impede the federal government from conducting ICE operations. Also, if you are a protester and you are obstructing ICE operations, that is also breaking federal law. And we aren't talking about protesting on the side. We are talking about people that are obstructing the mission and the objective of these agents that have been given the right to do so by the federal government. Where does the federal government get their power from? The people. The people voted President Trump into office, and this is why he won every single swing state, the popular vote, the electoral college vote, and while almost 85% of counties in this country shifted toward his direction. This is what the people wanted after seeing 20 million people enter this country illegally.
Yeah, and he goes on. He's Wesley Hunt, so he could talk for hours, and he does. But he's got a great point. And of course, he's running for Senate against John Cornyn. He's running for Senate against John Cornyn. And I don't know. I haven't followed the polls. We got to get Mark Mitchell back on here, the pollster from Rasmussen, and talk a little bit about that. I don't know what the polls are saying these days. I don't know where he stands in the whole grand scheme of things. But I do know this, that he'll probably be, he was a great congressman, so he'll probably be a great senator. If he loses, we lose him in both houses. He's not going to be in either house. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what happens after that. But that's Wesley Hunt and Tom Emmer, and there is a growing chorus of Republicans who are calling for Tim Walz to step down. Now, I don't think he's going to do that because he doesn't listen to Republicans at all. But it does pose an actual danger to any United States citizen living in Minnesota, Republican or Democrat. And that's one of the reasons. There are a lot of Republicans in Minnesota. Minnesota's kind of purple. You got a lot of these lunatics in Minneapolis, but in the rest of the state, you've got normal people. And there are times when I always thought Minnesota was on the brink of turning red again, but the folks in Minneapolis do whatever they do in the middle of the night and they keep it blue. Even when Stuart Smalley was the senator from there, and I didn't think that he had a snowball's chance a couple times, but they managed to pull it out in the end, doing whatever it is that they managed to do. So there are some things that happen. We'll just leave it at that. We'll leave it at that for right now. And then we'll get back to it later when Mike Lindell runs for governor and loses. And then we can yell screaming, all kinds of like counterfeit fraud, that kind of thing, mail-in ballots, yada, yada, yada. Which brings us to the SAVE Act, which, man, I'll be honest with you, John Thune, I don't know about John Thune anymore. I never really liked John Thune. I didn't like John Thune as a pick. I thought Rick Scott should have been my majority leader. But here's the problem. When you have somebody like John Thune, who was born and raised, who was brought up by Mitch McConnell, who owes his entire career really to Mitch McConnell. When you have a guy like that, you're not going to he's going to be that guy forever. He's never going to not be Mitch McConnell light. He's never going to not be Mitch McConnell Jr. And the reason he's in the position of power now is because Mitch McConnell put him there. Mitch McConnell said, step down because I keep falling. People don't know what I'm talking. Half the time I wet myself and don't know where I am. So he's like, I got to step down. But he didn't want anyone controlling the Senate that he created, the Senate majority, this stronghold, this stranglehold on it that he had. No, he wanted somebody he could trust, and he could only trust like two people. And John Thune was one of them. He got all the people that he's built up, that he's given money to, that he's controlled their campaigns, all that kind of stuff. He helped all of them. So of course they voted for John Thune over Rick Scott. And now John Thune is acting just like Mitch McConnell did. He's not passing the SAVE Act. And people all over the internet are just furious because the SAVE Act will, we've got elections coming up, right? We've got elections coming up here like super quick. They're coming up in November of this year. And everybody and their mother is screaming and yelling about John Thune not bringing the SAVE Act up for a vote. In fact, here, I'll pull some up, or we'll just roll through some of them real quick. You know what else would benefit people in every corner of America? Voter ID laws. Pass the SAVE Act now. Senator Ron Johnson is even all in on abolishing the filibuster. I'm not sure what logic leader John Thune is using in his thinking that it's better to keep it in place. It only wastes valuable time. Blah, I don't know. That's not on the SAVE Act. Do your job, John Thune. What are you waiting for? Pass the SAVE Act. Get your ASS in gear and pass the SAVE Act now. John Thune, pass the SAVE Act. Stop undermining and diluting my vote as a citizen by allowing non-citizens to potentially vote. There's millions. This started going crazy today. Started trending. Everybody's talking about the SAVE Act and how John Thune. Oh, here it is. Scott Pressler has been writing to John Thune every day for like 15 days. There's only one singular reason why anyone would be opposed to the SAVE Act. They want non-citizens to vote in our elections. In fact, let's see what day he's on, because he's been writing to John Thune repeatedly. Where is it? This is an hour ago. Senator John Cornyn. Oh, he's writing John Cornyn. I mean this as respectfully as possible. Your primary is on March 3rd. You're trying to get reelected. Can you share with Texans what you're doing to put peaceful pressure on Senate Majority Leader Thune to pass the SAVE Act? This is day 16 of asking Leader John Thune to pass the SAVE Act, and he's not doing it. We have been inundated in the last week. Ever since we got back from break, it's like Republicans, they, in quotes, by the way, in air quotes, they went away for the break and they came back and said, all right, we're going to take a break and then we're going to come back and then we're going to not act like Republicans. We're going to act like Democrats. And we're not going to pass the SAVE Act. And we're going to continue to fund these hot, like left-wing lunatic liberal organizations and NGOs that trample the Constitution. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to act like Republicans act. We are going to act like Democrats act, and nobody can stop us. And I don't know if they're doing it because it's an election year. I don't know if they're doing it because they feel like they're going to lose the House of Representatives anyway, and maybe they don't want to ruffle any feathers. I think that's it. I think there's this defeatist mentality, right? There's this defeatist mentality that a lot of these Republicans have. They want to work with whoever's in charge. And Donald Trump's been in charge now for a year, and they worked with Donald Trump, most of them. But now they're like, oh, you know what? Come this time next year, Donald Trump, we know the Republicans may not be in charge of the House of Representatives. We may not have the Speaker of the House anymore, and we're going to have to work with the Democrats. So we should probably not strong arm them now. We should probably not railroad them now. We should probably throw them a bone here and there. Let's not defund all of their anti-constitutional NGOs. Let's make sure they still get taxpayer payoffs funneling into their campaign accounts and their personal bank accounts, and let's make sure that they can still trade stocks for at least another year. We'll drag our feet on all the important legislation that the American people want passed, but that the people in Congress don't. And I think that's exactly what's happening because they're trying to placate the Democrats before the Democrats take control in November. But what they don't realize, forget, or just are too stupid to care about is that the Democrats aren't going to work with Republicans. The Democrats are going to do what the Republicans should have done. They're going to railroad everything. They're going to push everything through. They're going to vote lockstep. They're going to threaten each other so that they can get what's best for their party. And they're not going to work with a single Republican ever. There's no more Tulsi Gabbards in the Democrat Party. There's nobody who's going to reach across the aisle and work with Republicans on something that actually makes sense and is good for the American people. They don't exist. That's a unicorn. That's a fallacy. Tulsi Gabbard is gone, and there aren't any others. And the reason she's gone is because they forced her out. They didn't like that she didn't vote to impeach President Donald Trump. They wanted everyone voting to impeach President Donald Trump. Luckily, they had a bunch of Republicans who joined them, so they didn't need her. But man, Nancy Pelosi was furious with Tulsi Gabbard. That's why she's a Republican now and working for Donald Trump, the person she did not impeach. Why? Because it was wrong. Doesn't exist in the Democrat Party. It's Democrats all for one and one for all. They are going to work together as a voting bloc. They're going to do what they're going to force anything they can. They're not going to let Republicans have a single bone thrown their way. They're going to they're going to impeach President Donald Trump immediately. They're going to gum up the works for 2 more years. And God forbid they get the Senate. They'll blow out the filibuster and pass whatever they want. And John Thune won't even bring up the SAVE Act. This is why Republicans are infuriating. This is why most politicians are. Republicans are infuriating. Other politicians, everybody just is. If you really sat and thought about it, you could just get annoyed by pretty much everybody. Even Canadians are infuriating. Canadians are horrible. This Mark Carney guy, oh my God, he's the worst. Mark Carney, this is kind of funny. This was trending this morning. Mark Carney was in China licking Xi Jinping's boots. You want to talk about bootlickers, man? This guy had his tongue out wide, and he was just like slurping up. I don't even know if he wears boots. Maybe. What do they wear in China? Do they wear boots? Shoes? Do they wear those like sandals? I don't know what they wear. But whatever they wear in China, they were getting sloppy wet because of all the licking that Mark Carney was doing. Listen to Mark Carney in Beijing talking about how much he's excited to work with China.
Mine is the first visit of a Canadian Prime Minister to China in nearly a decade. The world has changed much since that last visit. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Did you hear what he said? The new world order. I don't know why he said it so slowly. The new. Maybe he realized what he was saying when he said it, and he goes, oh, I'm going to get roasted for this. This is the same guy that said last year China was the biggest threat to Canada. In fact, somebody pulled that. Listen.
I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China. We're heartened by the leadership of President Xi Jinping and the speed with which our relationship has progressed in recent months. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
All right, so that was April 2025 compared to January 2025. That's how quick it was. That's how quick the turnaround was. Somebody actually in the media called him out, asked him about this.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Less than a year ago, you said that China was the biggest security threat to Canada. Do you still believe that?
The security landscape continues to change. And in a world that's more dangerous and divided, we face many threats. That's the reality. And the job, my responsibilities as Prime Minister, the job of the government, is to manage those threats.
So he's basically saying, look, in the last 6 months, they went from being our biggest concern to our biggest ally. Why is that? What is going on? China is trying to infiltrate Canada because they know that they can't infiltrate the United States of America. Donald Trump has put in all kinds of security measures. Donald Trump has done everything that he could possibly do. Donald Trump and his administration are boosting the military directly as a result of China. They've put tariffs on all of China's trading partners. They're stealing chips from Taiwan. They've sanctioned the out of Russia. They've now taken Venezuela's oil. China was working with Venezuela. Iran was working with Venezuela. Russia was working with Venezuela. Now that's gone. So China is desperate to find somebody else that they can cuddle up with. So they're going to Canada. Why? Well, Canada has some oil. Canada has some manufacturing. Canada has a lot of farmland, and Canada borders the United States of America. Also, Canada hates us now because we finally have a leader that said, we're not going to let you Canucks take advantage of us anymore. We don't need you. Donald Trump basically said, we don't need your maple syrup. We don't need your oil. We don't need your cars. We don't need your lumber. We don't need your steel. We don't even need your hockey. We got our own hockey here. In fact, in Florida, we've got two-time Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers, and they went to the White House and talked about how we don't need Canadian hockey anymore.
Well, I mean, the 2 cups was pretty good, but that walk with you might have trumped it all there. That was pretty amazing. No, I just want to say on behalf of the whole organization and mainly the players, we are so honored to be here, being an American. I know I said it last year, but I mean, nothing beats this. I'm so proud to be an American and so proud to be here with you and everybody else. So, but like I said last year, winning, it takes a toll. You pay a price for it. And each one of these members behind me, like, it really does take a village to make it happen. And each person played a very, very important part in it. And coming down to Florida, thanks to Vinny Viola and Bill Zito, has really changed my life. And I cannot believe that 3 years later we have 2 Stanley Cups. And like Vinny said, we are not stopping now. And we hope to be here next year. So that's the plan. And, representing you and the millions back here next month in the Olympics will be one of the highlights of my life as well. So thank you.
Look at that. That's American hockey players, right? American hockey player playing American hockey in Florida and winning 2 back-to-back Stanley Cups. We don't need Canada. There's nothing Canada has that we need. We've got comedians, so we don't need your comedians anymore. You can keep Ryan Reynolds. I mean, we've already got him. He already came. They all come here anyway, right? Any decent Canadian comes here anyway. What does that leave you? You know what it leaves you with? A country full of half-decent Canadians and some hockey teams that can't seem to win a Stanley Cup. They're losing to team Florida. Florida's like one of the hottest states. And I mean hot, like there's not today. It's freezing cold today, but usually it's one of the hottest states, and they're out there playing hockey in July and winning. Think about that. Hockey in July in Florida, and they're winning. That's what American exceptionalism is like, and that's why Canada is now cozying up to China. They need to. They don't have any other choice. Speaking of cozying up to the United States of America or cozying up to leaders, Maria Conchata, who you may remember won the Nobel Peace Prize. Maria Conchata, which always, it sounds to me like Hakuna Matata. Whenever I said, I go, Maria Conchata, What a wonderful phrase. Anyway, she is the opposition leader in Venezuela. She won the Nobel Peace Prize this year. She immediately dedicated it to President Donald Trump. I don't know if you remember that.
And they decided to dedicate it to President Trump because he deserves it. Because not only has he been involved in only a few months in solving 8 wars, but his actions have been decisive to have Venezuela now at a threshold of freedom after 26 years of tyranny that have destroyed the lives of millions of Venezuela, destabilized the region, and undermined the institutions in the United States, because having Venezuela as a safe haven of the enemies of the United States and using our territory and our resources to hurt the American people.
Yeah, anyway, so yeah, you get it. So she said Donald Trump really deserves the award. So she shows up at the White House and she actually brings President Donald Trump the award. And she goes, here, take it. It's yours. Look at this. This is, like when people come to the White House, I guess it's traditional to bring a gift. You bring some kind of gift. If I were going to go to the president's house, I don't know what I would bring. Maybe I'd bring something. But you bring a gift to the president, and she brought her Nobel Peace Prize. And she had it framed. She put it in a frame. That's the actual, you can kind of see it there. There's the big gold Nobel Peace Prize. She had it mounted and framed, and there's her certificate. And there's a little plaque that says, to President Donald Trump in, I got to zoom in because it's a little, oh, no, I just zoomed out. That's not good. To President Donald Trump, basically for being a dude, for being cool, peace through strength, all that kind of stuff. And she goes, here's your award. And Donald Trump took it, which is the other. It's amazing. She goes, basically what she's saying is she's saying, you deserve this award more than I do this year. So you take it. Now, also what she's saying is, I want you to install me as the new president of Venezuela. But that hasn't happened yet. And we don't know if it's going to happen. In fact, President Donald Trump, I believe, seems okay with the current leader of Venezuela because the current leader of Venezuela hasn't done anything wrong yet. As soon as Nicolas Maduro was gone, Donald Trump said, we need your oil. And they said, here's billions of dollars worth. They brought in American oil companies to refine the oil, to become partners in the oil business. They stopped sending their oil all over the place. I don't think there's been any drug boats in the water since Nicolas Maduro's been gone. It's been a very, very kind of, so far, knock on wood, a very, very, kind of safe and secure agreement for everybody. So I don't know that Donald Trump's looking to install Maria Conchata into that place. Also, there's a whole conspiracy theory that the only reason that Nicolas Maduro was removed from power, this is Tucker Carlson speaking, was so that Maria Conchata could go down there and spread homosexuality as the new president. That's what Tucker Carlson said. I don't know if any of that's true. I don't know. I think Nicolas Maduro was removed because for decades he's been killing Americans and Venezuelans and anyone else who he wants to, he gets his grubby little paws on. I think that he's been devastating to an entire population of people. He's been detrimental to the South American continent and the North American continent. He's cozied up to terrorists and, evil deed doers like Vladimir Putin and the Ayatollah and everybody else. I think that's why he was removed. But maybe it's so that, Maria Conchata could go and spread homosexuality around Venezuela. I don't know, but that's what I heard on the Tucker Carlson show. So we'll just leave it at that. But back to this. She wants to cozy up with President Donald Trump. She wants to be installed. So she is bringing her Nobel Peace Prize there. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen. But I will say this. I know for a fact now that Nobel Peace Prize will probably hang in the Donald Trump library, the presidential library, forever. I guarantee she's secured herself a spot somewhere in the Donald Trump presidential library for the duration, because that's never. I don't know ever before that a Nobel Peace Prize winner has given their actual Peace Prize award to a sitting president and saying, hey, you deserve this more than I don't know that that's ever happened. And of course, Donald Trump likes to display his historic moments around his home, and I'm sure he will do it in the library as well. Also, it's gold, and gold is Donald Trump's favorite color. So anything that, look, she was smart too. Like, here's what's smart. This woman's smart. She's got smart advisors. The Nobel Peace Prize is gold. The little, framework around the certificate is gold. The frame is gold because she knows, look, at Donald Trump, the whole room is gold. There's gold everywhere. Donald Trump has this gold stuff everywhere. So she's like, if I want him to hang it, she's like, I can't roll in here with silver. He's not going to hang that. So she made it gold. And now he's like, oh, look, it matches the Constitution right behind me. Maybe I'll hang it up right next to the it's going to go somewhere. It's gold. Donald Trump loves gold. You know why? Because gold is valuable. In fact, gold has increased in value over the last year, like by an astronomical rate. And I know that because I follow gold. And I know that because I'm good friends with Augusta Precious Metals, and they have a gold IRA that is second to none. It's the most trusted gold IRA, as a matter of fact, by the Better Business Bureau. They have an amazing rating. And what Augusta Precious Metals has been able to do is they've been able to look at the economy, and you should too. You should really look at your own economic situation. If you have an IRA, if you have, say, $50,000 in an IRA, some kind of retirement account, you want to look at it. And you want to think to yourself, is it really safe there? I mean, the stock market fluctuates like you wouldn't believe, up and down, up and down, up and down. Gold just goes up. Bitcoin, everyone was like, oh, put your money in Bitcoin. We're going to buy Bitcoin. We're going to do this, that, and the other. And it goes up. And then all of a sudden, everyone buys Bitcoin and it tanks. Why? Because one whale pulls their coin out or sells or whatever you do with your crypto wallet. And it tanks. But gold just keeps going up. This time last year, it was $2,600. Now it's like $4,400. That's just up. And that's why a lot of people, in fact, I tried to call Augusta Precious Metals the other day to ask them a question. And they were like, sorry, we didn't get back to you. Our phones are ringing off the hook. Everybody wants gold. And if you want to know why, and if you want to know how beneficial gold would be to your IRA and to your retirement, then get your free gold guide at markswealthstrategy.com. markswealthstrategy.com. You can go there right now. You can get your free gold guide. You can check it out for yourself. You can also text the word wealth to 35052 if you want, 35052. And to just, first of all, just get the free gold guide. If you want to give them a call, give them a call. They're very nice people. They're very intelligent, and they are one of the most trusted precious metals brokers there are. I mean, they'll tell you, but you can see all of the reviews right there on the website. It's amazing. And, I trust them too. I've worked with other gold companies. I don't work with them anymore. I only work right now with Augusta Precious Metals because they are your premier gold IRA company. markswealthstrategy.com is where you go. markswealthstrategy.com. There's a link in the description of this video, or you can text the word wealth to 35052. Now, I apologize. I know we got some cha-ching chats in, but I just for the life of me cannot display them. And that's why, oh, wait. Yeah, I can't display them for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on with my computer, but for whatever reason, we've had some issues with the computer system today. So I'm not even gonna. That's why I stopped promoting them, and we'll revisit again next week. But just keep in mind, we'll be here Monday. So if you want to swing by Monday, no problemo. And in just a minute, we're gonna go live in our Catriot Club private group for the after party. This is where we talk about stuff that we don't talk about here. This is where we talk about stuff where, it's like the inside track. If you have a question and you want me to answer it, you can come in here with your questions, and I'm just going to roll through the chat and just answer some questions because that's what everyone likes to do. And in order to join the Catriot Club, you have to subscribe on our Facebook page. There's a link in the description of this video. Or if you go to my Facebook page, Mark K on Facebook, just click the subscribe button at the top. That's probably the easiest way to go. And you'll get access to the private group, which is 24. There's people in there talking smack all the time. It's really amazing. That's where our live streams will be when we do the after party and when we do other new content. And so I would urge you, if you want to have a little bit more fun, if you're not done yet, if you have a burning question, something you want to talk about, or if you want to hang out with some other super Catriots, then I would join the club right now. Just click the subscribe button on our Facebook page or the link in the description of this video. In the meantime, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for subscribing to this channel. We had a monumental week. We had that historic Wednesday night when we hit 100,000 followers on YouTube. And I got to be honest with you, I think it has made a difference. I have seen an overall, increase in what seems like, interest in the channel. I have seen an overall uptick in subscriber. In fact, we got to 100,000 subscribers on Wednesday, and in the next day, we got another 1,000. So definitely, I think my theory is correct that once you prove yourself as a dedicated and loyal member of the community that comes back consistently, and we're up to 1,336 additional since Wednesday. That's unheard of. We've never grown that fast before. So thank you guys all again. A very historic and fun week. Whatever platform you're on, whether it's Rumble, whether it's the podcast platform, if you're listening to us, make sure you subscribe because we got more content coming your way all weekend long, all next week for the rest of my life. I will be here. I'm the Scott Adams. I'll be here till they tell me this is the end. And then I'll have my wife come on and read a statement. So that's my goal now. He was an inspiration to me. Sad week again. But we will keep his memory alive by streaming as long as we possibly can. So subscribe because there's more to talk about. There's more to learn. We've got to keep you informed. We've got to keep you motivated. We've got to keep you inspired. We've got to keep you ready to fight so we can save the Republic. After party begins in about 10 minutes. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're in the group. We'll see you in 10.